Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and in this video I just want to show you guys how you can make your very own custom mud flaps for really any car. And this example will be done on our 944 Safari project. And this is what they should look like in the end, so let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is get a piece of cardboard big enough to fit in your wheel well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my template, and I'm going to take a marker. And I'm going to want to trace, kind of get an outline in here. So one about right there. And a lot of this is preference, and it depends on your car too. So in this car, there's a big hump right here in the underbody. So I want to cut that out so that we don't have any weird bends in it. We also want to make sure it's square on the bottom. Make sure it's sticking out some. And then some of this, like this corner, we're going to want to cut at like an angle or make it round to make that look better. And then up here, where it sticks out some, this is where you're going to want to cut it at an angle so that it helps blend this sharp edge into the body. So I'd say I have a pretty decent size here. I do want to make this a little bit shorter. So this is kind of a rough template. We'll see what this looks like when we cut it out. So I went back and got some more accurate measurements here. And then I did round off both corners in the bottom and then snip the top like I said. So this doesn't go out as far as we had marked on this side. After going back and looking at that a little bit harder, but this does depend on any car, and there's a lot of preference as well, because maybe you don't want it to go in that much. Maybe you just want it to protect the outer body, so you don't need all that extra meat on it. So with our template, we're gonna wanna put it on a big piece of rubber. This is a smaller example that I cut off so that I didn't have the whole roll up here. But this is really thick, very flexible rubber from Tractor Supply. And you can get it in pretty long rolls, pretty wide rolls too. So I was able to cut this out. Once you have a good solid template, you can use that on all four corners of the car. So now we need to get this on up there and get some holes drilled. And I'll show you how to do that now. So I'm gonna be using the template for an example because I already have the holes drilled in the rubber piece. So what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna bring this up here and then have it in like roughly the same position as you had it when you made the template. So let's get this out and down a little bit. There we go. And that's in a pretty good spot. So now we wanna mark, I'd say for this fender, you wanna get 3 holes on this and then 2 on the inside. And that's good practice for really any car. You can have 3 on the outside and 2 on the inside. 3 on the inside would also not be bad at all. So you want to get kind of this is a very rough way of doing it, but all these can be moved around pretty easily, but you can also feel it pretty easily too. So I have 3 on here going down the fender, and then I want to put 2 up here. So I'll put one right there, and then one right here. So now we have 5 holes marked here, 2 on the inside and 3 on the outside. And then with the holes that we poked in the cardboard, we can basically just transfer them over. You can drill through, and you can set the cardboard on top of here and drill through that to get those holes, or you can mark them another way, just putting a marker through this. We need dots on here. So we have our 5 holes here on the fender that we need. And now it's all pretty straightforward. We do have to drill some holes in the fender and the underbody, but then we'll be able to put it on. So I think the best way of doing this is using sheet metal screws and these little things. They basically act as mini nuts. And just use a bit to drill this hole in the fender that's a little bit wider than your screw. And then your screw needs to be, of course, made to go into these. And as for the underbody, I'm using self-tapping screws, so you don't need any sort of thing for that. You just need to drill them in. And this is kind of the same case scenario. You're gonna wanna mark on the car like where your top of the mud flap goes, so that when you come to drill these holes, you can just poke this through. You can poke a punch in here and then kind of push down on the punch to make a little indentation, and then you have your 5 indentions, and then you'll have your 5 holes once you drill them. Here are my screws of choice here for the outer ones. Like I said, we have 3 sheet metal screws and then 2 self-drilling ones for the inside. So now we're gonna grab our rubber and all of our screws, and we of course need a screwdriver as well. And I'm gonna start with the upper top one. So I like to poke them through the rubber first, and then these just will go right on there. You don't want to tighten these down too much, especially to begin with, because that'll kind of warp the bend right here along the fender. And of course that bend, if you do have it and you can't get rid of it, will go away with time and use of these mud flaps. So now I have our first 3 screws on the outer edge here. And for these, like I said, you're just gonna drill those into the underbody, and then with these holes lined up, you have to push pretty hard on a screwdriver for these self-driving screws, but they do go in, and they go in very well for this car. Once you feel that initial bite on the underbody, you know that your thread is starting to tap itself. In these, you don't want to tighten down too much as well. And because this rubber is so soft, it can go through. I've done that on a few of my prototypes. Just go straight through it. The head of the bolt, screw. Just want it to snug up and get the back of this onto the thing, because that's really all you need. And as you can see, there's a little bit of a warp right here, like I talked about. So I'm gonna loosen up this middle one, and then the top one as well. And then the middle one we're gonna tighten back down, and the top one as well. And that cleans it up a little bit. And like I said, that will go away once you use these. And obviously, because there's no engine in this car right now, it hasn't been doing much driving, but eventually for all 4 corners, this will straighten itself out with the bend of the fender. And there you have it. I put on the wheel, and you can see that this thing looks pretty good, front and back. Let's go around back here, down to the bottom. Has just enough droop here, and this bend that's caused by the body, and all those screws in there, that kind of goes naturally with the tire. The bend of the tire looks really nice. And the same for the back. And like I said earlier, I used the same exact template for front and back, just the inside 2 screws I had to put in a different place, but everything else is the same. And this by no means is a very neat way of doing it. It's a very shoddy way of doing it, but it's a very effective way. These mud flaps, I think, are gonna perform great in protecting the body and the brakes on the inside of the car. Anything up in here, inside of the car, meaning under the fender, anything up in there, I think that these will do an instrumental role in protecting that. But thank you guys for watching. I hope some of you guys found this useful if you're looking for a cheap way to make some effective mud flaps. And of course, there'll be some real concrete testing with these in the future once we get this thing going.